Hey everyone, how's it going? Hope you're good. So I am finally ready to do my review of the Insta360 One R. It is a camera that I've been using for 4 months now, basically since before it was released. I have traveled with this camera to not one, not two, but 3 continents, not countries, continents. So I guarantee you that out of anyone who's done a review of this camera, I have used it more than them. So I should have a pretty good idea of exactly what it's like, its pros, its cons, whether it's worth buying, and I'm going to let you know right now. So this might end up being a pretty long video because I'm going to give you a lot of information, I'm going to show you a lot of clips, a lot of footage. But if you don't want to really watch all of that, I can quickly summarize what I think of this camera. Basically, it's a jack of all trades camera. It's a great 360 camera, but not the best. It's a good 4K camera, but also not the best. However, it is the only camera that I know of that can do both of those things in one system. So that is why I think it's a good camera. That is why I think it is worth buying. But first and foremost, the reason why I like this camera isn't really anything to do with the hardware, but it's to do with the app that you use to make your videos. It is definitely the best app I have ever used for any kind of video editing on a mobile. And yeah, I really like it. I think it's a great way to create content. But there are some issues with it. I'm not going to lie. This is not the perfect camera. It does have some very annoying issues, which may be deal breakers for you. It's not really for me. But there are things that annoy me about it, so I'm going to tell you what they are soon. But before that, we're going to go straight into looking at some video shot with this camera. We're going to talk about its capabilities and what it can do, because basically this is a video camera. This is a camera for travel vlogging, for action shots. So I'm sure you know by now that this is a dual 4K and 360 camera. I am reviewing the twin version, or the twin edition, which features the 4K wide angle lens, which is in the camera right now, and the 360 lens, which I have right here. So that's the one I'm going to be reviewing. I have not used the 1-inch module yet, and I think the vast majority of people are going to be buying this version as it's the standard version, and the 1-inch module is pretty expensive. So this is the version I'm reviewing. The One R can shoot 360 video at 5.7K resolution at 30 frames per second. The 360 module has an aperture of f2.8. It also has some other frame rate options all the way down to 3K at 100 frames per second, and the maximum bitrate is 120 megabits per second. You have the option of coding in H.264 or H.265 format. It has HDR video, time-lapse, time shift, and bullet time. So if we just focus on the 360 video for now, we can see that it shoots pretty good quality 360 video compared to other 360 cameras. It shoots very well in daylight, bright conditions, shooting very high quality video. Great colors, great dynamic range, decent amount of detail. Now I know some people were disappointed at the resolution of the camera at still 5.7K, which is no different from the previous camera, the Insta360 One X. However, there have been some improvements in their processing technology and how it captures color, how it captures light. So maybe the lenses are slightly different. It is better than the Insta360 One X overall. The difference is not massive. You are not going to see a huge leap in quality. Low light performance has also been improved. However, I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's quite as good as Insta360 insinuates in their promo videos. I've never managed to get the low light video looking as good as they do. However, there has been some improvement, definitely. One issue that has cropped up, and it is something that affects many 360 cameras, is the red dot of doom, which is a shame because some other cameras have managed to get rid of this. This is where sunlight shines directly into the lens and creates this kind of lens flare effect, and it comes through as this little red dot. And it is something that becomes quite annoying. It becomes a little bit obvious if you shoot in bright conditions. It's not a deal breaker for me, but it is something that hopefully can be fixed or at least reduced in the future. When it comes to stabilization, Insta360 have already created a good reputation for themselves for creating cameras that have awesome stabilization. Now, they said that the stabilization in the One R is next generation, next level stabilization compared to the other cameras. I, to be honest, haven't really noticed much of a difference, but that's not really an issue because it was pretty much perfect last time. I think there is slightly better, maybe in low light conditions, the stabilization works better. But in general, it's really awesome still. You can do pretty much anything with this camera, wave it around, attach it to a car, go skiing with it, go running with it, attach it to a drone, and it will smooth out any bumps, any kind of vibrations that you may experience. So for action shots, this is definitely the best camera around. There are dozens of unique shots that you can create using the camera and the app, which I'll go into later, but overall I'm really impressed with the video. I don't think it's the best around. I do think the GoPro Max has slightly better quality video, probably because they use, I don't know, better lens technology. They certainly have better color technology, and for me, I prefer the GoPro Max in terms of pure video quality. So I'm not going to say that the One R is the best 360 camera for video, because I don't think it is, but it is certainly an 8 out of 10, so I'm not complaining. There are a few issues again with the red dot and some not so great low light performance. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not, but overall I'm impressed, and it's certainly an improvement on the last camera. Now, I know some people were disappointed that the Insta360 One R wasn't an 8K camera, as there are a couple of those out now, and I guess people expected an upgrade in resolution after a few years, because let's face it, it is still important for 360 video to have as high resolution as possible. However, I think for the type of video that Insta360 are trying to help you create, it's not necessary right now, and it would just lead to such a headache editing on a mobile app or even editing on your desktop. They want to try and make it as easy as possible to make travel vlogs and normal vlogs and action shots, and right now the technology isn't there to edit 8K smoothly, especially on a phone. So I'm happy with the resolution. I guess if you wanted to shoot a virtual tour in the 360 mode, you know, for your VR headset and, you know, look around like that, then 8K would be worth it. But for the kind of videos Insta360 are looking to create, these reframed videos, it's not necessary right now. Maybe in a year or so it will be possible, but for now I think it's better they stick with what they know. Now, one issue that I have found, which a lot of people have noticed, and it is noticeable, I'm afraid, and that is the stitching line when shooting with the 360 module of the One R. Now, it is more noticeable than the previous camera, the Insta360 One X, and that is because the camera is quite a lot thicker, so the distance between the lenses is larger, and therefore it's more difficult for the camera or the software to create a seamless stitch line. Now, it doesn't happen all the time. It's not noticeable all the time, but it's certainly more noticeable than it was before. So that is a downer. It is a downgrade essentially compared to the last camera, and it's not really avoidable because you're not going to be able to make, no software update is going to be able to make this thinner than it is now. So that is something that you just have to put up with, and you can do some things to reduce it, like not have the camera pointing directly at the sun where the seam line is. So stuff like that, you know, you can do things to prevent it, but essentially that is what it is. Now let's look at some 4K video shot with the 4K module. This is of course a modular camera and can switch between the 360 mode and the 4K mode. So it's essentially like having a 360 camera and a GoPro Hero. That's kind of what they're trying to achieve here. So, which I think is a good idea. I'm going to go into the design and the pros and cons of that later, but let's just take a look at some video shot with this camera. Having said that, I don't think the 4K module is the best 4K action camera around. I don't think it shoots quite as good video as GoPro Heroes. The colors aren't really popping for me. It's not super detailed. The 4K looks sharp, as you would expect 4K video to do, but it's just not really like amazing. You know, I'm not like, wow, that is such a good video. It's good, it's decent, it does a decent job. It's probably going to be slightly better than your phone. It's going to be better than most other cheap 4K action cameras, the ones you can kind of get for 50, 100 bucks. But yeah, it's not going to beat out a GoPro Hero, I don't think. But again, bear in mind that you get two cameras with this. With the GoPro Hero, you just can shoot 4K normal video. You can't shoot 360 video, so if you wanted to shoot 360 video, you'd have to buy a whole nother camera. So the downside is that it's not the best 4K camera, but the upside is that you don't have to buy a whole nother camera to get this. You know, you just have to switch out the lenses. What I do like about the 4K lens is that it has many frame rate options. You can shoot in slow motion, in fact, super slow motion at 200 frames per second. And I have tried that out, and it does work. It works well. The slow motion looks good. I think 200 frames per second can be a struggle for the camera, especially if really in any conditions, but especially if there's not very, very bright lights around. I shot underwater with this camera and it works really well. I think this is the best footage I shot with the 4K lens, and I really like how it came out. It also makes use of the stabilization. It's not going to be as good as the 360 module because there's not as many pixels to work with, but the 4K lens does it is stabilized to some degree, and you can walk around with it and shoot with it. It's not going to be super bumpy. So to conclude the video section of this review, like I said, it's not the best 360 camera in terms of quality, it's not the best 4K camera in terms of quality, but it does pretty well with both, and it's the only one that combines the two, which is why I think for video, this is one of the best cameras around. Let's take a quick look at the photography options of this camera, because even though it is a video camera, it does have quite a few photography options. I will say straight from the get-go that this is not good enough for shooting professional virtual tours. There are other cameras that can do that, like the Ricoh Theta Z1. But if you wanted some decent quality shots for Instagram, for social media, this camera is going to be more than good enough. The photo resolution of the 360 module is 6080 by 3040, and that gives it a fairly high resolution compared to most other cameras. Not the best, but not the worst. It makes use of the same fairly decent color and processing technology as the video. It can shoot in automatic HDR mode. It can shoot DNG RAW photos, which I think is the best way to get the best quality out of the camera, shooting in DNG RAW and editing in Lightroom. The best thing about this camera for photography is definitely the night mode, which, even though it's called night mode, I recommend using it in the daytime or basically anywhere, especially indoors. It basically stacks, I think it's either 8 or 10 photos together to create super high dynamic range, super detailed images, and you don't need to go into a program to do that. It does it all automatically, stitches it in the phone, and spits out a really, really good looking photo. It does work best when there is some light around. In complete darkness, it's going to create very noisy images, and if there is a very bright direct light shining on the lens, it's going to overexpose that quite a lot. But apart from that, the night mode works really well, and I'm really happy with it. But if you wanted to get the best quality, I do recommend shooting in DNG RAW and editing in Lightroom. I think that's still the best way to get the best photos out of this camera. Okay, I want to talk about the design of the camera, because that is quite a unique thing. I'm sure many people start off their reviews talking about the design. I just wanted to get the videos and photos out of the way because I think that's the most important thing. But let's talk about this design. It's certainly a, I guess, change in direction from their last camera, the One X, which was just a very simple candy bar shaped camera, can shoot 360, 2 lenses, and boom, you're done. Now, there are some pros and cons to this new design. Obviously, it is a modular system, so you can take it apart, take out one lens and put another one in. There's probably going to be more lenses in the future, so you could say it's fairly future-proof. You can upgrade the hardware of this camera, whereas with other cameras, you need to buy a whole new thing if you want any upgraded hardware. Now, that's a pro. Also, a pro is this touch screen, which I am very happy about. Although I hate the noise when it turns on. The noise, I just don't like that. The touchscreen makes it super user-friendly. It's a big upgrade compared to the very poor screen of the One X, and it allows for full manual control. It means you don't necessarily have to connect to the app all the time, which one, saves battery, and two, just saves time, because connecting to a phone sometimes doesn't work. Sometimes you lose the connection. Now, while I hate that noise. Now, while I understand where Insta360 are going with this, they wanted to create a camera that could kind of do it all. They wanted to create a camera that could not only shoot 360, but also shoot normal video, so, you know, you wouldn't have to buy a GoPro as well. They're coming for GoPro hard. However, does it work? I mean, it works. It does do both of those things. Is it super user-friendly and a smooth experience? No. Each time you need to switch these lenses, it is not a quick process. It's not the touch of a button, it's not 10 seconds, it's at least 30 seconds. So there are 5 pieces to this camera. There's the 2 lenses, there's the bracket, which I'm about to take off now, which comes apart like that. It's similar to a GoPro bracket that you've probably seen used before, which kind of covers the... See, it's even quite difficult to take out. And sometimes things get stuck in the bracket and it's just like, oh, fuck's sake. Right, there we go. See, and also design flaw, this thing, which is the door, the SIM card, for me, it always just comes undone and gets in the way. It could have just, I want to take it off. If you take it off, it will make it not waterproof, so I'm going to leave it on. But it always pops out the battery. Unplug this. So now you have, you know, 5 things in your hand, and there's this case as well. So right, now I want to put the 360 module in. What do I do with this for now? Well, I'll put it on a table. Nope, that's the wrong way around. The battery in. There we go, done. Right, it's not impossible. It's not like, I'm not an idiot if you are reasonable intelligence, you'll be able to work it out pretty quickly. It's just like plugging in Lego or something. But the thing is, if you are shooting in 360 and you think, oh, look, that looks really good, I want to shoot in 4K this thing over here, you're not going to be able to do it instantly. It's going to take you a little while. If you've seen other reviews and they tell you, oh, it's super easy, it's fine, and they show you, they take it apart and they put it together, the fact of the matter is they're sitting at a table and they're in front of a camera and they can slowly take it apart, put the little pieces on the table and put the camera back together. When you're out in the real world shooting something and you want to quickly change something, you're not going to have a table in front of you. You're just going to have your hands. So it is not user-friendly to change these things around. It is a little bit annoying, and it is the worst thing about the camera, to be honest. It's also the best thing about the camera, because if without this system, you wouldn't be able to shoot the two different types of video. So it's just something you have to put up with if you want to get the best out of this camera. Cameras like the GoPro Max, you can just press a button and it will change from a 360 mode to a normal mode. However, that mode is limited to 1080p, so it is far lower quality compared to the 4K lens. Otherwise, the camera is fairly robust. It is waterproof, like I showed you in my previous video. One final issue I have with the design of the camera is how it deals with the invisible selfie stick effect. Now, this is something that was very popular with the last camera, the Insta360 One X, and basically the design of the camera and the type of selfie stick like this used with it allows the selfie stick to be completely invisible, makes it look like the camera is floating. So that is something that many people were happy about, and many people enjoyed, and it's one of my most watched videos where I explain how this effect is achieved, so it's clearly something that people want. Now, you can achieve the invisible selfie stick effect with the One R using the same kind of selfie stick. However, it's not guaranteed because of this GoPro-esque mount, bracket, whatever you want to call it, is movable, so it can move essentially. Even if you tighten up really well, if you're going to be using it, putting it in your bag, putting it in your pocket, it can move. So say it moved like that. The selfie stick will now be no longer invisible because it's not directly in between these two lenses. It would only be invisible like this. So even that is a bit, yeah. There we go, something like that. So like this, the selfie stick is invisible, but like this, it's not. You see, so it's kind of slanted. So you really need to make sure each time you shoot that the selfie stick is in the right place. Apparently, I've heard on the grapevine that Insta360 are going to create now a bracket that automatically does it, or that locks into place, which is great. But essentially, we've already bought the camera. We've already spent $500, whatever it is, on the camera. So do we have to buy something else now to get what we had before? Who knows? If they give it away for free, then great. But for now, the invisible selfie stick effect, possible but not guaranteed. Now, let's move on to my favorite thing about this camera, and that is the app. I think it is the best, by far the best thing about this camera, actually. It makes it super easy to create some really awesome video. It's available for iOS and Android. I think there are some small differences between the two, but overall, it's a similar experience. The app allows you to create full-length videos, which would have otherwise required something like Premiere Pro or Sony Vegas or some kind of advanced desktop software. You can pretty much do the same thing now on this app using the video from your 360 and 4K modules. The app features a lot of AI editing functions as well, which basically means it can take your video and automatically detect the most interesting or best parts and just use those parts when you edit. It's basically an automatic editing function which can make editing a video a lot quicker. The app also has a lot of default templates which you can apply to your videos. So for example, if you wanted to create a travel vlog, Insta360 have included several different types of videos, several different types of templates with preset transitions, preset music, and all you need to do is select that template, select the footage that you want to use, and it will create your video for you based on that template. Of course, you can then go in and make your own little edits and change things, tweak things, but overall, it again makes editing a lot quicker, a lot simpler, and a lot easier to just smash out those videos without having to spend hours and hours and hours cutting and editing. So yeah, the app is definitely the best thing about this camera. I have a whole video dedicated to the app, so I'm not going to go into it massively here. You can check out the video on my channel. I'll put a link somewhere in the description where you can see that. Insta360 have also upgraded the tracking feature of this camera, which I think is probably one of the best things about it. Literally, you can select a person to track in your video and it will do it flawlessly. I've never seen a camera be able to do this. The only downside to the app that I've seen is that it can be a bit slow, especially if you have a slightly older phone. I literally bought the oldest iPhone available, the iPhone 8, just to be able to use it on iOS, and it does take a long time to render the video and to use the AI functions. So the newer your phone, the better. Don't expect it to run super smooth on older phones. The desktop app has also been upgraded, the Insta360 Studio. However, it doesn't have all of the features that you see in the mobile app. It does have some AI editing features, so you can press that button and it will select some interesting parts of your video, or at least it will try to. So again, it does shorten the editing time if you just want to create some quick clips. Okay guys, so I think that pretty much concludes my review of the Insta360 One R. I said at the beginning that this is a kind of jack of all trades. Insta360 have tried to throw everything and the kitchen sink into this camera. And, you know, in some ways they succeed because it is the only camera I know of that can shoot high quality 360 video and high quality linear 4K video, and you can combine those together. You can create some awesome things with the app combined with the stabilization and the different video modes that are available. So I enjoy it. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. That stitching line issue is a big one for me. The invisible selfie stick is another one. They didn't provide a pouch or a bag for the lens that you're not using, so where are you supposed to put it? Put it in your pocket, put it in your bag. Is it going to get scratched? Is it going to get damaged? Probably eventually. I think it's worth buying, especially if this is your first ever 360 camera. Definitely buy this one. It's definitely the best around for you. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that review. I've tried to be as honest as I can about this camera. Genuinely, I do not like to mislead. I've not been paid to make this review. So yeah, always take what you see online with a pinch of salt. If someone says something is perfect, it almost certainly isn't. So yeah, but at the end of the day, I like the camera, so I'm going to tell you that I like the camera. I'm going to create a guide on how to create a good travel vlog using this camera because I've been on a lot of holidays with it recently. Brazil, Hawaii, Iceland, like a lot of really cool places. So I'm going to create a video showing you how to create some travel vlogs with the One R. Let me know what you think of the One R. Did you buy it? Are you going to buy it? What's its best feature? What's its worst? Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, as always, I will try and answer them in the comments. But I guess that's it. That's the Insta360 One R. And I will see you next time. Bye.